Jaron Boots Ennis, Bozy Ennis, reacts to Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. Jaron Boots Ennis has some things to say right from the $1 million worth of game interview, and then left with Jaron Boots Ennis not necessarily looking good, right? The way the whole clip played out, the way the whole situation played out, it just didn't necessarily look good for Jaron Boots Ennis in a lot of people's eyes. Now, if you've seen the whole video and you saw how it played out in full context, then it looks a little differently. But millions of people seen that clip, and now it looks like Jaron Boots Ennis got big broed by Terence Crawford. But Jaron Boots Ennis reacts to this, and he had this to say. Salute to my boy YSM Sports Media. Check it out.
First TV fight, that was 2018. And, those guys were at the top of the ranks. And, I've been calling those guys out. Errol Spence, Bud, Thurman, all those guys. I've been calling these guys out,
What do you think the reason was why he acted like, or he said he never heard that?
Because he know the real reason why. Like I said before I challenged for the IBF belt, the interim belt, I was ranked in the WBO, and he was exit for that fight and things like that, and he went around me and went all the way down to Evanesian was like 6 or 7 or like that. Yeah. I was 2. You couldn't pick me. I didn't challenge for the IBF belt until after they made that announcement for his fight. So that, I don't know where they got that stuff from, but we was definitely waiting for that fight for a long time, and we thought we was gonna get it, And my pop put the call and was like, let's make it happen. And I heard that he never got back to Espinosa.
You on record saying you want him, you want Thurman, you want the Ugas's, the Errol Spences, right? Does it frustrate you when people those guys brush you off to the side and take other fights of guys that you're ranked higher than?
Yeah, but fight they don't want to fight. I can't force them, But no matter where they at, they could be at 60, 68. It don't matter. They gotta see me, man. Like I said before, they good fighters, but when I fight somebody that's good like me, they're gonna see a whole different me. It's gonna be easier, be sharper, things like.
Now, after hearing what Boots Ennis had to say, he said 160, 168. He's coming for Spence. He's coming for Crawford. But in this particular video, he spoke about the Crawford situation, and he said he's been calling him out since 2018, ever since his first televised fight. Now, come on, let's be real. Your first televised fight, and you calling out guys like Spence and Crawford, bro, nobody's going to take that seriously. And this is why box fans were scratching their head. 2018, Crawford he was barely a welterweight at 2018. So box fans were scratching their head at the timeline, but Boots Ennis seemed to know that, look, this is my first professional fight televised, and I remember on that stage after the fight, I called out all the top names, and he probably likely did. But when you just starting off, when you just got your first televised fight, guys at the top ain't looking down at you right now, right? That's just the way it works, right? But I get the impression that they feel that Spence and Crawford is avoiding Jaron Boots Ennis, and in reality, Spence and Crawford got business to handle with each other. Spence and Crawford been looking to settle this score for some years now, and this is the fight that all of boxing been waiting for, right? Now, if Jaron Boots Ennis had stayed in the WBO, right? Let's just say hypothetically he never even entertained the IBF interim or anything like that. He just sat back and waited in the WBO. Why? Because likely Terence Crawford will face him before Errol Spence would, right? Especially if pressed. So, yeah, fans are still going to be on the fence about that whole situation. But Bozy Ennis gave his thoughts on the fight between Spence and Crawford, and he said if Crawford starts off slow, it's over for him. Check it out.
Way back, Crawford got to be on his A game fighting Spence. Both of them great champions, man. You can't take nothing away from neither one of them. But Spence is same. He never changed. He uses jab, go behind his jab, basic, but a great basic fighter, man. What I mean, he's good with it. Whatever he do, he's good with it. He jabs, walk you down, break you down. You know what I mean? So you got to be prepared for this. To do this, he does it every round. So you got to be in top shape when you're fighting Spence. You know what I mean? And what you call him to me, Crawford is he more elusive than Spence. He can fight both sides, and he's slick. You know what I mean? But he tend to take a few shots. But I don't know if he's gonna be able to take them shots that Spence putting on him once he connect with him. You know what I mean? But I think it's a good fight. I think it's a 50-50 fight. But like I said, if he start off slow, if Crawford start off slow, it's all over. It's gonna be all over for him. And one thing about Crawford too, I like about him too, he'll fight you too. He like them boots. He'll fight you. So it might be a different situation. You know what I mean? Once he have to fight Spence, it'll be a different fight. You know what I mean? Because, you know, he got all the different attributes that he can use. Yeah. You know what I mean? Spence is just one way. He's walking you down, breaking you down, and letting his hands go. And that's, hey, you got to be prepared for that.
I mean, hearing what the OG Bozy had to say, right? And I respect Bozy Ennis' opinion when it comes to boxing. However, I disagree. Because if Errol Spence comes out hot against Terence Bud Crawford, it could backfire on him. Terence Crawford, unlike many of Errol Spence's other opposition, many of his other opponents, Crawford's a counterpuncher. What counterpunchers have Errol Spence fought to lead people to believe that he's just going to run in there and just run Crawford right out of the ring? I'm not quite sure I quite understand, right? I'm not quite sure I understand. But also what I heard, right, is that Derrick James revealed that they're banking on Terence Crawford. They say he closes his eyes a lot, right? They paid attention to this more recently. They say he closes his eyes a lot when he punches and stuff like that. And they're banking on something like that for Spence to capitalize on. I've seen Spence close his eyes too. Actually, I've seen many fighters close their eyes. Some fighters don't, some do, some close them in certain situations, whatever the case may be. But they're banking on something like that to tackle the task of Terence Crawford. I think it's going to take a little bit more than that, right? Now, I can see if Errol Spence had the speed advantage and a lot more advantages going into this fight. Now, a lot of things, even Bozy Ennis mentioned Errol Spence's output, his consistency. Errol Spence is very consistent. However, he's only shown that he's consistent against guys that's standing right in front of him with that high guard up. Guys that's not necessarily mobile on his feet. Guys that's not necessarily crafty fighters. So we've seen him be very consistent to guys that some may say is a punch bag in the ring. So 50-50 fight on paper, but in my opinion, I don't think it's so close as a fight stylistically, right? Maybe some years ago when Crawford first moved up, before he really grew into the weight class. But as we look at Terence Bud Crawford, one would imagine that a guy moving up in weight, the knockouts will stop, right? His power, he'll lose something. But Crawford didn't seem to lose nothing. Now, he may not be as fast as he once was, but everything else still seems to be clicking on all cylinders for Terence Bud Crawford. Not to mention the abundance of experience that he has as a professional fighter. So I'm not quite sure I agree with Bozy Ennis, but look, you got to say it that way. Errol Spence Jr., the big stepper, right? He said he's going to step right to Terence Crawford. We're going to see if he's going to follow through with that. Because in my opinion, I do see that being a very good approach for Spence. Don't even give Crawford a chance to download no data. Keep that pressure on him. Just keep the jab in his face. Attack the body when there's the opportunity to attack the body, and really just be in phenomenal shape to really outwork Terence Bud Crawford. However, Terence Bud Crawford arguably going to be the smartest fighter that Errol Spence fought. Terence Bud Crawford arguably is going to be the hardest puncher that Errol Spence fought. Terence Bud Crawford arguably is going to be the most well-rounded, versatile fighter that Errol Spence fought. So I think it's going to take a lot more than consistency and work rate to beat a guy like Terence Bud Crawford. A guy who is a counterpuncher, a guy who likes to punch in between your punches, a guy that can lull you into his type of fight. So we're going to see how Errol Spence approaches this thing, and we're going to continue to talk about this. Why? Because this is the fight that everybody wants to talk about. Like, subscribe, holla at your boy. Peace out.